Now, very few Gallente ships can be considered pretty. I mean, we have ships like the Celestis, which looks hideous, to say the least. The Moros does look like a space potato, although this thing, the Hubris, is really beautiful. I'm a fan of how the Lancers look, and this is probably one of the better looking Lancers that we have at the moment. But it will be time to see how the tank built on this thing will look, and this is also one of the most unique capitals in the game at the moment. This is the only Dreadnought that can fit fighters, and it has bonus on fighters and turrets, which is quite interesting. So the roll bonus is on surface the same, has the same extended bonus, same plate bonus, but when you scroll down, you do see can install fighter rigs and -6 light fighter formation size. So it has the most unique roll bonus out of all the Lancers at the moment because it can fit fighters. Although limited to light fighters only, you can't fit heavy fighters. They are kind of reserved for the super capitals, but you can fit fighters, which can be used as anti-tackle. But the other skills are kind of already, what we have seen on the previous Lancers and on the Moros. You get a blaster, you get railgun bonus on damage, range, you get light fighter EHP and optimal range, and armor repair, as well as armor volume bonus. So this kind of combine a carrier and a Dreadnought into one single hull. 2 fighter slots, 4 high slots, 4 high slots, 5 medium slots, 8 low slots, 3 combat and 3 engineering rigs. Obviously, the Hubris is a armor tank designed to be used primarily as a active armor tank, although you can also build this to be a passive tank if you like. Although I personally prefer a active tank. After all, it has a bonus on armor repairs, and it will be just natural to take advantage of those armor repairs. Now, for the builds, I have some blasters in the high slots, the snap-deuced railguns. They have a decent range. The doomsday for this thing is the Purgatory Thermal Annihilator, which does, by the way, kinetic damage, because this is so bugged, even the damage is bugged, but it should be thermal damage. I find that quite funny. And of course, the ship is also bugged like the rest, so the Doomsday is not going to work, the siege mode doesn't work, and the turrets are misplaced, but that's going to be fixed very soon, I've heard, so cannot wait for that. Here you can take a look at the other stats that you can get from the Doomsday. Again, Doomsday weaponry is interesting, and I cannot wait to actually test this out in combat. I'll do some wild things with it. I have a lot of ideas, and I'll do the ideas one by one. And I also forgot the grapplers. I have a scrambler and basically quad webs. And at the moment you can fit any Doomsday. At the moment that's the case. It could be changed down the road. I believe that it will be changed, since every one of these Doomsdays is designed for a specific capital, for a specific Dreadnought. So you will probably not be able to fit any Lance Doomsday in any capital. Basically, it's going to be limited to a certain Lancer ship. Now, I already mentioned the medium slots, quad webs, and a scrambler. Has a CHONK plate armor tank build. I was trying out to see. I was playing around with the build before I recorded. I was figuring out if the skills were working or not. Turns out skills do work, although sometimes they don't. That is only by the way limited to the test server. On the live server everything works perfectly fine, on the test server it doesn't, so yeah, that's why it's so bugged. And even the fighters are bugged over here. By the way, I can't put the fighters are not showing. I have 20,000 fighters in this station, but none of them are showing. So I would use the Hubris in combat the way I used the Valvern last time, but it's lacking fighters, and this basically uh, changed my mind into just showing you the builds, and then I'll do the combat part when they fix this mess. But yeah, at the moment the fighters are bugged, but you have 2 slots where you can fit the fighters, and they are good for anti-tackle. A very interesting combination. Dreadnought weaponry plus fighters for my carrier. A very interesting ship. And for the rigs, here you can take a look at the integrations and at the engineering rigs. Basically, I took the rigs from the Bane, and I just put the same rigs into this thing. Works the same way. With the extra armor repair, it should be a evil combination. Honestly, the rigs are universal. I designed the rigs to be easily interchanged between the capitals, and the rig combinations work on all the armor lancers that we have at the moment. Well, all armor lancers. We have like 2 of them. The Bane and the Hubris are the only armor lancers that are currently available. And this thing just looks beautiful. I am a fan of the design of this thing for sure. The Valvern and the Hubris are very nice looking ships. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to do a tank fit video here, but I just get carried away by how pretty these ships are. It's not ugly. It's definitely not ugly. It's like a Moros. The Moros is definitely ugly. This has curves, I guess, and these curves are just nice to look at. 12,000 hit points. Obviously, the Hubris and Moros as well don't really have a lot of hit points, but they are more oriented to be active tanks. So passive tanks can work and will work on this thing, but you can't really expect to have the same amount of overall hit point and resistance as the Bane, for example, since the Bane has a bonus on top of having
docking request accepted.
Has a bonus on armor resistance on top of having all the other bonuses. So there's a big difference to consider, and I would still say that you should follow the stats of the ship, and basically if it has a bonus on armor repairs, go with an active tank. You can't go wrong with both, but from my experience, it does seem like the active tanks on the ships would work better because of the bonus on armor repair, or on the Valvern you can do both. The Valvern is a very unique ship. It can do both shield or armor. So I guess with those ships you can go with a active tank. The Karura will be interesting. I have an idea with that thing. And before I forget, let me review the fuel source. You can't use. I've been told you can't use plasmoids for these ships. I found out that heavy water works, so I guess you can use heavy water to refuel these ships. The Doomsday eats so much fuel. You have to refuel the ship after 1 or 2 Doomsday usage. By the way, they eat fuel like nothing. If I thought that the Super Capital High Slot module eats fuel, it's nothing compared to how much fuel this Doomsday uses. It will empty the fuel in like 1 to 3 uses, and it's empty. Of course, with skills you can improve that, but it is still eating so much fuel. You really have to have a stable fuel support line if you want to keep using this much more actively. It's expensive to use for sure. So those are some fat armor repairs, and unfortunately the siege mode doesn't work, so I can't really show you the full effect. But these things, this thing can repair armor like nothing. It's a very, very strong active armor tank, like the Moros. It does repair like the Moros, so you can expect a very powerful active tank coming from this ship. With this build, the overall hit points would be less, and this is more of what type of build would I, let's say, use. One battery is more than enough. You have a damage control, and you also can replace the damage control with the Energizer damage control. The Energizer is good if you expect super capitals to be flying around you. if you do expect super capitals, the Energizer will definitely at least extend your ship's duration by 150 seconds. And if you have a good tank, you can be nearly immortal, and you will be able to easily tank whatever DPS is thrown at the ship for as long as the Energizer is up and running. Which again is a very important and useful module, since it can't really be yeeted off grid in 3 seconds if you have a proper tank build. Same can be said about the Bane, and same can be said about the Valverin. If you have a very good tank, they will be very difficult to kill. Not as difficult, I mean, obviously a Navy Dreadnought would have, and will probably have more CHONK, but for what they are at the moment, they are very difficult to kill if you have a right build. Now, one of the other builds that are also available, the battery builds, battery tank. One of the more popular Dreadnought builds is the battery tank build, which does look something like this: 3 batteries, 2 armor repairs, and this build usually varies. You sometimes 4 batteries, but if you have such a build, the total resistance will be low, and with such a build you can get yeeted off grid by a super capital much easier than with a full-on resistance build. So I guess in the end you do have different ships, different builds with different counters and different purposes, and all of these builds have advantage and disadvantage. In this case you have capacitor, but you don't have resistance, although they look good. Now don't get me wrong, the tank looks good, but not nearly as good as if you would have a full-on tank build, or full-on resistance tank build, to be more accurate. So, well, this might be more useful in the general use against a super capital. I don't know. I wouldn't be trusting this type of build against a super capital. I would still go as much resistance as possible and a Energizer damage control. Maybe an Energizer would do well in this case instead of a damage control, classic damage control against a super capital. Again, I will be testing that out once the ship actually, works properly. You can also use the high angle weapons. They have the best tracking, by the way. The blaster high angle weapons have the best trackings. They can easily hit super capitals, and a PvE high angle weapon Moros can be a very good PvE machine, or PvP if you want to yeet this at gate camps. It can pull that off quite easily. As for the general units and as for the implants, you have the thermocirculation and you have the high power coil. Thermocirculation for tank, high power coil for DPS, although the high power coil can also give you some pretty decent DPS. Has actually better damage bonus, but it has a much shorter duration time, basically like a shotgun. That's how I look at the thermocirculation, a shotgun, but I primarily use it for extra armor resistance. And honestly, if I had to rate the best possible implant, it's the thermocirculation implant. Level 15 is all that you need to get one of the best possible passive effects in the game. And I personally used the thermocirculation on my armor tanks. It worked wonders. And if you like armor tanks, then thermocirculation is definitely a thing that I recommend that you get. Of course, the high power coil is decent, very good as well for DPS, and one of the better implants for sustained DPS overall in the game. Now, let me see the tank on such a build. Then let me just, for the lulz and giggles, let me just show you the DPS, which will be laughable. I mean, no siege, it's, yeah. When I say no siege, on the live server it works perfectly fine. On the test server it's broken for whatever reason. So yeah, sucks, but it is what it is. And I heard the fix is on the way, so hoping that it's getting fixed soon because I really want to show you a lot of things with these ships.
Docking request accepted.
Well, that was funny DPS for sure. 2000 DPS. My Macario has more DPS than this. Anyway, what else can I do with this brick? I mean, you honestly do have a vast variety of builds out there. I wouldn't be using extenders though. I would not be using a shield tank build for this thing for sure. That's one thing I would not be doing. After all, that extended bonus is weird. It's nice that it's there, I guess, but at the moment, the way the other stats are allocated on this ship, that shield extender bonus on a Hubris, for example, would be completely and utterly useless. And yeah, I will still go. If you want to go with a passive shield tank, Karura and the Valvern could definitely be the way to go. But for this thing, if you want a passive tank, do it with an armor tank. Don't do it with a shield tank. It is most likely not going to do well. Although it kind of tickled my curiosity to actually test it out, so I guess I'll test it out regardless of whether I think it's good or not. Testing has priority, so maybe it changes my mind. Who knows? Anything is possible. But triple plate builds. I did mention it before, but I really miss the good old Abaddon plate build. It was such a troll build. Abaddon with 3 or 4 plates was insane. It was broken though, and I'm glad that it was nerfed because it definitely needed nerfs, but I'm also sad that it was nerfed because it was ridiculously fun. Can you just imagine how broken it would be if we had the same plate mechanic as we used to back in the day, with the new plates that give you like 50% extra armor? That would be insane to say the least. And speaking of the new plates, the new extenders, or the titanium plates, as well as the new what was the name? Shield generators, they would be insanely broken on these ships with how much hit point they would have. So eventually, if we do get capital titanium plates or shield generators, I will be putting that into these ships, and I can almost guarantee you that I'll break like 6 million shield or 5 to 10 million armor on these ships. It has potential to have that much armor, with of course a different rig setup. So it is also on my to-do list. If we ever get these modules, haven't noticed them on the market. Maybe they are actually available. I just haven't looked. Maybe that's the case. But regardless, when we do get that, I believe it's going to be kind of crazy how strong of an effect they will have on these ships. 8.2 million hit points, 80, 88, 89 and 84. Obviously lower than the Bane, but still a fairly decent tank. Again, I'm still standing behind the fact that the Hubris should be an active tank, but I'm just showing you this for the lols and giggles. 24 million hit points with a build like this. I think it's a decent hit point value, but I am not a fan of mixing plates and active tank. I either go full tank or full active or full passive. Again, that's just what I think. But down the road, I will test out the plate plus repair as well, because I'm also curious to see if it ends up actually being decent on these ships. And of course, the quad plate build. If you want a floating brick, then this is the way how to do it. Energizer and triple adaptives. Energizer or a classic damage control, I guess both can work. And with such a build, I would probably go with a thermocirculation implant, because it does give extra 20% armor resistance. And now 8.7, and well, that looks a bit better, I would say. Of course, Not as good as the Bane, but you know, it is still very decent. So can't complain about the stats. It does look okay. Can you just imagine how broken it would be if, oh my god, if I had access to these ships 3 years ago when plates have been overpowered? Oh my god, would this be silly to fly? 1.6 million, 1.69, nice, 1.69 million in armor hit point. Yeah, that definitely can get up to 3-4-5 million with the titanium plates.
Docking request
I don't know. It has the potential to be so silly. Maybe the titanium plates are the new armor plates, you know, like the good old plates. We will see how that will go. Besides this, you can also do a full-on CHONK build. I think I already did a build like this on the early parts of the video, but in this case has an Energizer damage control. So basically, you do get 98-99% resistance on armor for 150 seconds, which is as close to immortality as you can get. And you can do the same thing with the normal Dreadnoughts. I can only imagine the Navy Dreadnought tank with a build like this. 100% resistance guaranteed. And that wouldn't be that even difficult to achieve with 8 low slots. So
docking request accepted.
I'm actually more excited about the Navy Dreadnoughts than I was for the Lancers, although the Lancers are pretty epic to begin with. I mean, Doomsday weapon, first generation of Doomsday weapons added to the game. Nothing to hate about that, honestly. First generation of Doomsday weapons, and you do get some very nice looking ships. The navies, though, I'm all in for the navies, though. The Navy Capital, Navy Dreadnought. Yeah, that one would definitely be, I think, a ship for my use. And let's see, 60.9 million hit points with this build. So that was the Hubris tank build, I guess. And I like this thing. It's again one of the more unique ships, like the Wolverine, which has a bonus on armor repair and ship booster. This thing has a bonus on fighters, which is so far unseen in the Dreadnought space in this game, and I'm very excited and curious to actually test this thing out when it's actually fixed, when it's usable. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe, as always. I'll see you next time.